It's a road they've travelled so many times over the past 2 years. Gazans who had been forced by Israel yet again to flee the north, returning en masse. We're so happy, I swear, this young man says. God willing, the war will never come back. Look at the people, they're so happy. Some carry whatever they can. Many have no idea what they will find. Smoke from the last Israeli strikes before the ceasefire came into force this afternoon hangs in the air.
Despite the pain, despite the hunger, despite the continuous displacement, we are resilient and we are going back. I heard that my house was bombed and bulldozed. I don't know exactly. I don't have a tent or anything, but I will sit in the ruins until we work out what to do.
It is for so many the most bittersweet of homecomings. Whole neighbourhoods barely recognisable, flattened by waves of airstrikes and what appears a deliberate scorched earth policy. Under the rubble, thousands of bodies remain trapped. Here in Khan Yunis, Mohammed Sarab clutches precious photos he's salvaged.
Nobody's left. It's just destruction. My message to the world is that hopefully God will alleviate our pain and this war will end and Gaza will be rebuilt. What we've lost won't come back. Our martyrs won't return. The house that has our memories won't come back. Our lives won't be the same, but we still want to live.
Left behind in Gaza, abandoned sites belonging to the much criticised and Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Here, people strip one apart, the centres described by Palestinians as death traps. The Israeli army announced today it's completed a partial withdrawal under the terms of President Trump's ceasefire agreement. Now, within 72 hours, Hamas will release the 20 living Israeli hostages. In Tel Aviv this morning, prayers for those still held in Gaza and their families. The relatives of 28 hostages are hoping just to receive their bodies to bury. Israel still feels traumatized by the Hamas attacks of October the 7th. Now the country hopes for some sort of closure. Last night, as his cabinet approved the ceasefire agreement, Prime Minister Netanyahu sat alongside its architects, Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and his son-in-law Jared Kushner. Today in a speech, Netanyahu hit back at criticism that he could have signed a similar deal over a year ago.
We are gripping Hamas from all sides in preparation for the next stages of the plan, in which Hamas will be disarmed. If this is achieved the easy way, so be it. If not, it will be achieved the hard way. Anyone who says that this hostage deal was always on the table is simply not telling the truth. Hamas has never agreed to release all of our hostages while we are inside the Strip.
This is initially a partial withdrawal by the Israeli army, moving out of the most populated areas, but remaining in over half the territory. Under the plan outlined by Trump, they'll only pull further back if and when an international stabilization force is deployed and Hamas is disarmed, though even then they'll still hold on to the periphery. So far, Hamas has resisted giving up all its weapons, and today its security forces were back on display in the streets. There's so much that could go wrong in the coming days and months. But for now, this is a moment to think about how to rebuild all that's been lost and to process the trauma you've survived.
Well, earlier I spoke to May El-Awada, a Gazan who works for medical aid for Palestinians in Gaza, and I began by asking her how she feels now people are moving back towards the north.
It's kind of crazy to just realize that now we are able to go back to north. So the idea that you can't head north have been engraved by the Israeli army, I believe, in the consciousness of every Palestinian living in Gaza, while we also know that when we head to southern Gaza, people were bombed, even in the so-called humanitarian areas. Our colleagues, for example, who headed today to northern Gaza, they are going back to the rubble. The Israeli army have been intensifyingly attacking northern Gaza with explosive robots now. And it was hard seeing the videos of our colleagues returning to their homes, finding them literally in rubble. This is heartbreaking. I mean, even after last night, a colleague lost 3 of his cousins in an Israeli attack in Gaza City. So actually this pushes me into calling for actually supporting the Palestinian healthcare system, because we know that hospitals and healthcare facilities in all over Gaza City now need us humanitarians, needs the world more than any time has came before, because we know that there are many patients, hundreds of thousands of patients in Gaza City need a very urgent support, and we are talking about starting from basic medical needs like, anesthesia, gauzes, and also equipment.
Is there any sense of relief or celebration? I mean, what are the overwhelming emotions of today?
To be honest, I feel in denial. I can't believe that my legs now can take me back to north. So I wouldn't believe it until everything, very details of lives that we regain is back. So I can tell you that yesterday in our office in the middle area of Gaza, we were just looking at each other, trying to understand that the attacks has finally stopped. Actually, a colleague who lost her son celebrated and honored his memory yesterday, because even if we want to say that we would have celebration, we throughout the non-stop 2 years of genocide, we haven't even got the chance to mourn those whom we lost. So now we can at least feel the grief that we have always wanted a time to process. And it's sad. And this reality is sad for me as Palestinian. I know many people whose bodies were still under the rubble until now, and we didn't even had the grace and the luxury of burying them and grieving them. I still remember that friend of mine who have been killed in early October 2023. With releasing the ceasefire and confirming it came into effect, there's some sort of grief, because I know that her family now is able to bury her and honor her.
May Alawada, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, President Trump might not have won the Nobel Peace Prize, but he is planning to fly to the Middle East on Sunday for the formal signing of the ceasefire deal in Egypt, and then is due to address the Israeli parliament on Monday, although we're also hearing those dates could change. Let's get more from our US editor, Anushka Astana, in Washington.
Thank you, Krishnan. You know what? Donald Trump has actually been quite quiet today, given how much of a win the White House sees this as. I was waiting with reporters as he left the White House this morning and headed towards Marine One. And actually, quite unusually for him, given how happy he is with what has happened, he didn't come over to talk. Maybe he was feeling a little grumpy about not winning the Nobel Peace Prize. But it is worth saying that whether he won it or not, most people are arguing that Donald Trump's role in this breakthrough has been absolutely critical. It is true that deals negotiated by Joe Biden and then by the French and Saudis in New York a few weeks ago were very similar to this. But the difference is that Donald Trump has actually been able to persuade or strong-arm Benjamin Netanyahu into actually signing up to this, which no one had been able to do before. He's also really built strong relations with Arab countries who they knew would pressure Hamas. Qatar, for example. Donald Trump has signed up to a defence pact since that strike on Doha, saying an attack on Qatar, a country he once accused of funding terrorism, would be like an attack on the peace and security of the US. And today they've said that Qatari jets and pilots will come to Idaho to do joint training programs with the US. Now, that's why he has been so key. But the question is, what comes next? Will he use that strength when it comes to phase 2 of all of this? And that is when it becomes much more difficult. There are reports that Egyptian negotiators, when they were doing all of this, they didn't even finish off the phase 2 side of this because they knew there was no hope of agreement. You've got a situation today where Benjamin Netanyahu has made clear that Hamas are still surrounded if they don't disarm. And when he visited the White House, Donald Trump was pretty clear on this. He said that he would back Israel to finish the job at that stage. He's also not shown interest in Palestinian statehood. So huge questions still to be answered.
Anushka Astana in Washington. Well, earlier today, while I was in Hostage Square here in Tel Aviv, I spoke to Barbara Leaf, a US diplomat who served as Assistant Secretary of State for Near Eastern Affairs under Joe Biden and was ambassador to the United Arab Emirates before that. And I began by asking her how stage 1 of the Trump plan can be implemented while monitoring whether Hamas and Israel are each doing what they said they would do.
Well, this is going to be a really difficult piece of it. There's no law and order on the other side, so that's going to be very difficult. And part of the task will be to get international NGOs, UN perhaps. I'm wondering if they're actually thinking of bringing in UNRWA again. It's not quite clear from the agreement, but you need a network of workers who can help distribute food in the first place, which is going to help alleviate not just suffering, but bring down the whole temperature of things.
And at what point do you think we see an international force go into Gaza?
Well, we don't have any indications yet. We're just hearing bits and pieces from unnamed sources, Arab and U.S., speaking to the press. We don't have any of those details. The administration and other officials, foreign officials, have been mum on that point. I have no doubt that there is a lot of work being done very, very rapidly in capitals, but it's quite a thing to do. And in the first instance, you really need just local policing, law and order. And there are Palestinian Authority security forces who have not worked in years, but who are there in the Strip who could be called back to work.
Right, so let's talk about getting to stage 2. I mean, what is the administration's role now in getting on to this next phase of the talks and making sure this is not just a ceasefire and hostage handover?
Well, we've seen that there are several hundred U.S. military members coming to Israel. We'll see who gets made point man. We have every reason to think that Tony Blair is going to have a key operational role, but one of his first tasks is to get member governments to put together, whether they're constabulary forces or others, some sort of elements to a security force. He's also got to begin to consult, if he hasn't already, consult with Palestinians who are in Gaza.
When you look at how the sheer force of Trump personality has been instrumental in us getting to this point, does it make you think that we could have got here a lot sooner?
I don't know. All of us think about that issue every day. All of us who worked on Gaza for 15 months think about that every day.
But as somebody who was in the administration, how do you reflect on, that extra year? I mean, we spoke to Gershon Baskin last night, the Israeli former negotiator, who said this deal was essentially in place a year ago, but what it lacked was the force of diplomatic pressure to make it happen on both sides. How do you think people reflect on the suffering that has taken place in that year?
Yeah, I can't answer that question. I cannot say with fidelity that it could have happened last September, last October. And could it have happened in February? Could it have happened in March? Did Israel have to go back to the war? Yeah, I don't know.
And how confident do you feel that there will not be a return in perhaps a more limited sense to military action? Where I'm standing, a lot of people here who come up and talk to you just say they don't really believe that this will lead to a long-term process and that you will see the kind of military action going on in Gaza that we still see in Lebanon, for example, even though that war is supposed to be over.
There is a deep-going fatalism about whether this ever can be set to rights. That is the enormous task ahead. This is why I've said, as hard as it was getting to this breakthrough on both Israeli and Hamas's part to end the war. Because remember, these previous negotiations were never about ending the war. It was about doing a limited number of exchanges of Palestinians for Israelis. and then thinking about trying to get to a table to talk about the next phase. It never worked. So it has been a sort of a shocking move into the immediate, confronting the hardest of the issues, disarmament, setting up governance and security structures that are not Hamas, that haven't existed for 19 years. Who do you draw on? So there is going to be a need for very heavy U.S. involvement and probably periodic involvement by President Trump himself. But this burden is going to fall heavily on the foreigners to help the Palestinians and the Israelis sort of inch forward. And I don't underestimate the supreme challenges of that effort.
Barbara Lee, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.
Well, the IDF says it has now completed all the preparations it needs to handle the return of the hostages. Hamas has until noon on Monday to hand them to the Red Cross. They will then be taken to a dedicated facility at the Reem military base for a medical check before being reunited with their families. Joining me here is our Foreign Affairs correspondent, Porrick O'Brien.
Krish, it's going to be an incredibly difficult weekend for many families across Israel and Palestine. Here in Israel, there will be people, embracing the gaunt, sick, traumatized loved ones just released from captivity. There will be people receiving the bodies of their loved ones, and of course those who hoped that would happen and won't. In Palestine, there will also be families waiting to receive their loved ones who have been held in detention without a trial, languishing in an Israeli prison, but also people released who will have been responsible for the deaths of dozens of Israeli people. And many Jewish families will be experiencing a particular type of anguish around that, and that no doubt will be weaponized politically. But we spent today with a woman who maybe, just maybe, along with her family, might show us a way through all of this. We're driving through the Negev desert, southern Israel, to a cemetery near one of the kibbutzim, to a tended grave, but with no one in it. The name on the inscription, Tal Haimi. His widow Ella is hoping for a funeral, with a body very soon.
It's something that I'm planning in my mind for almost 2 years. I'm thinking about it.
Is it? So you have meticulously planned out what that funeral would look like?
I have a memo in my phone that I wrote every detail and idea that come to my mind. And maybe this week or next one, it will be the time.
Are you in a position to share any of those details or not?
What I wrote to myself?
Yeah.
It's just something what I want to say, who I want to say, we'll talk.
Well, can you read out some of it?
Let's see. No, let's keep it here.
That's for you.
Yeah.
The 41-year-old was killed during the October the 7th Hamas attacks. His body brought into Gaza a few kilometers away. It's still there somewhere, but perhaps not for much longer. 3 months ago, his widow Ella moved back to kibbutz near Yazak. As Hamas militants approached the kibbutz that day, Tal, part of the community security response team, put on his helmet. He turned to Ella, their twins and their youngest son at the time, and told them to go stay in the safe room.
Hey, Udi. Hi.
It now doubles as Udi's bedroom.
We're from the television.
In the absence of a body, Udi says he doesn't believe that his father is dead.
Oh, you want to come with me in the car? Yeah. It was very simple for him. Details, conclusion, that's it.
I see. So no body, he's not dead.
Yeah.
Udi isn't the youngest anymore. Ella was 3 months pregnant at the time of the October attacks. Lotan was born 6 months after his father was killed. The other kids got to pick the name, as long as it contained 3 letters, T-A-L.
After he came to the world, they just look at him and I see everything is changing on their faces because they are more happy.
As we travel, news that the IDF are withdrawing to the agreed central section of Gaza, just a few kilometres away, as per the agreement. That will facilitate the return of her husband's body.
I mean, you can see Gaza from here. Do you look out at it and wonder?
Where is? Yeah, I'm looking at Gaza and I actually have many questions. One of them is, where are you, Tal? Where are you?
We're off to a basketball tournament. The atmosphere inside is electric. More than a game, a community coming back to life. Among the supporters, Gadi Moses, also taken hostage, released in February. And before the game, Ella addresses the crowd. Back out in the desert, we learn that Tal's grave is not completely empty. It contains the only thing they found of him, the piece of equipment he used to protect himself and his family.
No, it looks like a regular grave, but inside there is nothing, just a helmet.
And there was the safe room, of course, where Udi sleeps. Ella says that the next few days will be difficult, but ultimately therapeutic for this young boy.
So Udi, tell me who is that?
Nir. And Udi.
Udi, that's you.
Einav. Tal. Ella.
Well, earlier today, I spoke to the Israeli Prime Minister's spokesman, David Mensa, and I put it to him that to meet the terms of the Trump plan, Israel had had to shift its policy massively towards Hamas, from total victory and total destruction to accepting that right now Hamas still exists.
I don't see any shift whatsoever. I genuinely don't see any shift whatsoever.
Well, you haven't got the total victory, is what I mean.
We have. Hamas are no longer able to attack us in the way that they did, and most importantly, in the agreement, Hamas are no longer part of the future of Gaza.
Is that what you meant all along? Because I mean, I think most of the world thought you meant we want to destroy them.
We have destroyed them. We have destroyed
literally.
them. The reason why they've come to why has Hamas come to this point is because everyone said to Israel, don't go into Gaza City. That's the last place where the Hamas stronghold is. We said, no, we're going in. And we put the knife to their throats, and that is why they've got nowhere else to go now. They must make this agreement.
What is the test, though, for demilitarization, and who will monitor it?
The agreements are very, very clear that Hamas can no longer form part of Gaza in any way, shape or form. The idea that we couldn't destroy this ideology was wrong, that we couldn't destroy this organization was wrong.
But they said they're taking control of places that the IDF is withdrawing from.
Well, that would be a very, very bad idea, because the agreement, and President Trump backs this up, has made crystal clear that Hamas no longer form any part of the future of Gaza.
But
and the Prime Minister made this clear today. He released a statement today. I watched him record it last night, and he says, look, you can do this two ways, the easy way or the hard way.
What does the hard way mean?
We know exactly what the hard way means. It means the same thing as in Lebanon. Yes, we want agreements with our neighbors, but agreements that will be enforced. Israel will enforce this agreement.
So the threat of more military action remains?
Nobody wants more military action, but the Prime Minister has made crystal clear that there will still remain, as there is, Israel has withdrawn back to this yellow line, but ultimately there will still be a border between the two of us, a security area where we can ensure that Hamas can no longer attack us.
So will it
again.
be like Lebanon? It's interesting you draw that comparison. I mean, are you saying you retain the right to mount strikes and killings on Hamas leadership if you feel they are breaking the rules, preparing to break the rules, or anything like that?
Christian, that's what the agreement says. It's pretty crystal clear.
So you could
agreement.
preempt?
No, it's. I don't want to talk about bad things that may happen in the future. This is an optimistic time. Israel will maintain overall security control to ensure that Hamas cannot regroup, that Hamas are not part of the future of Gaza, because that's precisely what the agreement says.
But who will monitor that?
Well, Israel is always here to make sure that it will defend itself. And
from outside?
And the president has also made clear in the agreement that there'll be others as well.
As you know, there's great suspicion amongst many people that you'll never get past stage one, that this will just amount to a temporary ceasefire, release of the hostages, you get your people back, and then there could be a return to the killing.
Well, can we just celebrate that point? Not to quote Margaret Thatcher, can we be happy with that?
I mean, you will obviously, yes.
And you too, Christian, I hope.
I'm sure the whole world will rejoice.
So you've spoken to the hostage families. I've seen
people who've gone
to
through
your
terrible
credit.
things.
To your credit, you've spoken to the hostage families. You've seen that this is an open wound in Israeli society. We need to get our people home. But this is a sequential agreement. Stage 1, Stage 2, Stage 3. Stage 1 has to be achieved. That is the first stage. Israel has withdrawn its forces back to the Yellow Line. And now, within these 72 hours, we're already into these 72 hours, hostages must come home. And then, following that, we hope that happens. All of us want a peaceful
So will stage 2
here.
talks begin immediately?
Yes, that's what the agreement states. That's what the agreement states.
And to what extent is the Prime Minister, at the will of his coalition partners, who are stated opponents of it, but haven't left the government yet?
The Prime Minister leads this government. He is the voice of this government. People, of course, can always, different cabinet ministers can express their opinion, and they do.
But they can collapse the government by leaving it.
No, I don't think that's correct. If you look at the mathematics of Israel's government, that's incorrect.
David Menzer, thank you very much.
Good to be with you.
Now, the poet Mossab Abu Toha fled his home in northern Gaza with his family after the Israeli military action began. He was detained and beaten by Israeli soldiers as they tried to leave Gaza, but was released days later. The family now live in New York, where he chronicles what's happened in Gaza from afar, earning him this year's Pulitzer Prize for commentary. I spoke to him earlier and asked what today means to him.
It's not really a ceasefire. It's a day for the people in Gaza. And for me, as someone who's living in the United States right now, is to watch my people as they're trying to retrieve the bodies of their loved ones, those who were killed in the streets and were left for the dogs and cats to eat their bodies. It is a day for people to return to check on their houses. Many of the houses have been destroyed. My relatives' houses were destroyed when they left them in the past few days and weeks. It is a day for us to count how many of the people that we thought they were still alive in Gaza City, how many of them were killed. In fact, it is a chance for the people to reflect on the 2 years of the genocide in Gaza. So for us, the fire has not ceased. It is, in fact, starting to glow.
Now you managed to escape. I mean, do you want to be back there?
Of course, 100%. Before I had to leave Gaza with my wife and our 3 kids, I was abducted by the Israeli forces. I was tortured for 3 days. Before I left Gaza, our house was destroyed in October 2023. And the school shelter where I was sheltering was bombed. I lost so many family members of mine. Now, as I'm talking to you, the entirety of Beit Lahia city, where I used to live, is leveled to the ground. So there is literally nothing for the people in Gaza to return to. And we know that this is the plan. They want people, to realize that there is nothing to stay for. And even for the people who are outside of Gaza like me, that there is nothing to return to. But there are lots of things to return to, our families, the ones who survived. We have to wait until we know that this is a peaceful solution to the Palestinian catastrophe.
What has the last 2 years done to your sense of Palestinian identity and how you feel about how the rest of the world views you?
Krishnan, I'm the grandchild of refugees. I'm the great-grandchild of refugees who were expelled from Jaffa in 1948. If you look at the names and the ages of people who Israel slaughtered over the past 2 years, you will see that there are over 1,000 Nakba survivors. Israel has managed, unfortunately, to destroy much of the refugee life in the Gaza Strip. But still, that was not enough for Israel. They are thinking of annexing the West Bank. They are trying to occupy much of the Gaza Strip. We are calling it a ceasefire. But Israeli tanks and soldiers are still inside of the Gaza Strip. This is not a total withdrawal, and people and journalists and around the world have been watching a live stream genocide. But did this change anything? No, because the victims are Palestinians. This is something that I learned in the past 2 years.
Many people are talking about what has changed and how the world has changed since October the 7th. I mean, as somebody who was in Gaza on October the 7th and has now been in the United States, do you think the world has been changed by this?
I mean, of course the world has changed. The world has seen Israel and its war crimes. The real change is when the governments of the world start to treat the Palestinian people as equal people. When I hear leaders around the world express and voice their concern about the security of the Palestinian people, we have never heard of anyone, not only saying, but also doing something to protect the Palestinian people. So the Palestinians are not allowed to protect themselves. We do not have an army, by the way, Krishnan, and that was part of the Oslo Accords. For me, a change is when the world cares and does something to ensure the Palestinian people's security and peace on their own land.
Mossab Abu Toha, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.